Good morning. Welcome to RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. It is 9:11 a.m. right now here on the East Coast there. Kind of a hot day there in Washington, D.C. We'll get to that in just a minute, and I just mean by the temperature. It's going to be hotter in D.C. today than in the Deep South. That's news in my opinion as well. We'll talk about that a bit later, but a lot of very, very important news to get to, of course, as we have seen the developments over the past 24 to 48 to 72 hours of what transpired starting Saturday night when our country got involved with the situation there in the Middle East. But now we're reading a number of posts from President Trump also, so we can stay up to date on what's going on. On top of that, this is going to be all about the 10 o'clock GOP press conference that will be happening in about 48 minutes from now. Sometimes that press conference starts a bit later in the day, in the sense of about half an hour later. So we'll see if that's the case. All right, this post here, some specifics. Now, first, I'd like to go to President Trump. He said Israel's not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. Nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So President Trump posted that on Truth Social. Then this post here from OSINT Defender. Let me pull it up real quick for us so we can read it together a little bit. And again, more information as we continue to do coverage here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. And one thing we could say is specifically, there's a lot of details here as I continue to look for the specific post on our internal communications here. But what I can say is we know that we've been covering all of the developments since Saturday, of course, with President Trump's national address. And then, of course, on Sunday morning, the Pentagon speaking to the reporters there. So let's go to that post right now that is up on the screen. It's quite a lengthy post. I'm pressing the button, and here it is. All right, so Israel's Prime Minister's office. Okay, so the ceasefire was scheduled to take effect at 7 a.m. and at 3 a.m. Israel launched a powerful strike in the heart of Tehran, targeting regime infrastructure and eliminating hundreds of Basij members and Iranian security personnel. So this is open source intel, OSINT 613. Also, shortly before the ceasefire took effect, Iran fired a barrage of missiles, one of which struck Beersheba and claimed the lives of 4 Israeli civilians. So more specifically, at 7 a.m., the ceasefire came into effect. However, at 7:06 a.m., Iran launched another missile toward the Israeli territory, followed by 2 more missiles at 10:25 a.m. All 3 were intercepted or landed in open areas, causing no casualties or damage. Also, in response to these violations, the Israeli Air Force destroyed a radar installation near Tehran. So what we're seeing is, following a phone call between President Trump and the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel refrained from carrying out additional strikes. Now, during the conversation, according to OSINT, the 613 there, again, President Trump referred to this X account as well, very accurate account. We're seeing that President Trump, during the conversation, conveyed his deep appreciation for Israel, which he said had accomplished all of the war's objectives. The president also expressed confidence in the stability of the ceasefire. So that's some of the latest news that we're seeing out there when it comes to the Middle East situation that is hopefully going to stay peaceful now. And thanks to President Trump, once again, stepping in, striking 3 places in Iran, and then now a hopeful peaceful situation out of that in Iran and in Israel. So we'll monitor the developments as we get them, as it's 9:15 this morning on Right Side Broadcasting Network. All right, so also all of this brought to you by All Family Pharmacy. So disasters, of course, they don't wait, and neither should you. So power outages, blocked roads, empty pharmacy shelves, it really only takes one emergency to leave you without the medications you need. So whether it's a hurricane or wildfire or a new virus threat, All Family Pharmacy is here for you. They make it easy to stock up on ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, antibiotics, and daily medications and more. So there are more than 200 essential medications with a doctor's prescription, including that fast delivery to your door. No insurance, no pharmacy lines, no last minute scrambling. So RSBN viewers, all of us get 20% off everything through the end of this month, June 30th, with that RSBN 20 code. You don't have to wait for a disaster to remind you how important it is, of course, to be prepared. These guys are great. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Also, Colonial Metals Group. As you see on your screen, protect your IRA, your 401k with gold, 100% tax-free. You can use that QR code as well. So get that free gold guide in the mail right there to your mailbox by just going to freegoldguide.com/RSBN. Gold and silver as a backup to the dollar. Protect your IRA, 401k with gold, 100% tax-free. Colonial Metals Group. All right, so it's 9:17 this morning, Tuesday, June 24th. We're going to be watching the GOP press conference coming up from Capitol Hill. That's slated to start at 10. Sometimes it starts at 10:30. In the meantime, on the president's schedule today, we can look at a number of things. Today, the president, of course, on his way to The Hague in Netherlands for that NATO summit. And then we'll look into some more of the details of what President Trump's up to over the next few weeks, including a rally in Iowa. Looking forward to that coverage as well, right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. In the meantime, the USS Gerald Ford Strike Group departed Norfolk, Virginia to assist in coverage out there in the Middle East. So our U.S. Navy doing a great job covering us in many ways out there in the Middle East, but also along the southern border. We'll get to that in just a bit. All right, so let's go to that video. There's a Q&A with some of the commanders there from this USS Gerald Ford Strike Group departing Virginia just yesterday. Take a look.
So I think it's this job that we get to do. So we bring deterrence wherever we go. There is not a more clear, visible notion of our nation's power than, in my mind, than the American aircraft carrier. We also will sail to the appropriate spots to defend our allies when needed, and we'll engage with our allies wherever we go. So I think it's really all of the above. Thank you.
Can you say anything more about where you're headed? And if I could follow up, how has your preparation changed since war broke out in Gaza?
Yeah, good question. Thank you. So we are headed to the European Theater of Operations. That's our first stop. And what a naval mission package does is, as you know, we're mobile and maneuverable. So we can go where we're tasked and then respond as necessary. So within one day, we can move this whole strike group 700 plus miles. But initially, we're going to the European Theater of Operations. And then as to your question about training, since the Israel and Hamas conflict has come up since October 7th, absolutely, we've updated our training. We actually update our training on a weekly, monthly basis. We use a closed loop of data gathering, assessment, and really modernizing our training throughout. So we've done that. I'm not going to get into the details of our tactics, techniques, and procedures, but we absolutely evolve our training for all of the threats that we might see.
And that training probably, if the Houthi rebels resume their attacks, that training, of course, you all are prepared for that as well.
We are 100% prepared for that, yes. Yeah, thank you.
Can you talk a little bit about how you're adapting to having destroyers kind of flow in and flow out of the strike group? We're seeing that more and more now. For example, Forrest Sherman is in the Red Sea right now, anticipating whatever the Houthis might do. How has that evolved since your last deployment when you were the skipper?
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm going to pass that one to Commodore Lawrence, the commander of Destroyer Squadron 2, to just talk about how we integrate destroyers in the modern Navy. Thank you.
Yes, good morning, Sam. Thanks for that question. It's part of how we prepare for all of our many missions. We're inherently flexible, and the training standards have risen across the board and across all numbered fleets such that our forward deployed forces, our CONUS-based forces, continental U.S.-based forces, are ready to plug and play, as we say, in any strike group formation. So we expect to be doing that kind of chopping and changing both in and outside of Gerald R. Ford Strike Group.
Are you going to be working with some of the FDNF ships out of Rota?
There's no doubt in my mind that we'll have opportunities to do that, as well as our allies and partners in theater.
Thank you. All right, I think I missed you, sir. Yeah, if I understand, it's a little bit hard to hear with the cranes, but if I understand your question, that you're interested in how we worked with Truman to learn from their experiences. That's a really good question. That's something we're really good at here in the Norfolk waterfront. I think CAG might be able to kind of touch on that one with the air wing to air wing connectivity. So CAG, over to you.
All right, Captain Ortez, CAG Air Wing Commander. So the 9 squadrons are coming on. So over the last 2 weeks since Truman got back, I have had multiple meetings with the Air Wing Commander of CAG 1, and we went over everything, every little detail, what our adversaries are doing, how we counter that, and also just the grand picture of, hey, resiliency, quality of life for sailors, what we're doing to help them out, where we can find R&R, and also the safety aspect. So we work really hard to learn from our mistakes, and I have spoken, like I said, over the last 2 weeks since they got back. They wanted to go on leave, but they knew the mission was more important to push those lessons learned forward. So I really thank Leslie Mintz of CAG 1 for helping us be better.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us the date that this ship and crew received orders to depart in the future and when sailors were recalled back to them?
Oh, the exact date? I can tell you it's months ago, literally. So this is a regularly scheduled deployment, and our deployment order came out at least 6-7 weeks ago with our initial plan. And like I mentioned earlier, we're always flexible. That the President and the Secretary of Defense can order any of the Department of Defense forces to a new mission, and that does happen on a daily, weekly basis, depending on the evolving threat or the operating environment. So we're ready to change our plan. We have planning meetings literally every day, and the ship and the carrier strike group are incredibly flexible in that way. But we've had this order for our deployment today in hand for several weeks. Thanks.
And this will be the last question, if there's one more.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to ask, how long is this trip total?
It's a great question. Yeah. So we love living in Hampton Roads. We love coming back to Hampton Roads. Our families mostly are here. There are some folks that have families scattered around the United States, and the biggest thing families want to know is, when is my loved one going to come home? And I will tell you nominally that the United States Navy acts in kind of a 7-month time window for major deployments like this, what we normally use for our business rules. And I will also tell you that the strike groups that have left before us have experienced the need to remain on station, to include the USS Gerald R. Ford on her last deployment. She was finishing what she thought was a normal 7-month deployment, and she was stationed in the Mediterranean when the October 7th raids happened in Israel. And she was ready to respond, on point, ready to go, without any delay whatsoever. She was really the first member of the joint force to be able to plug in and be ready to help and be ready to answer tasking. So she was extended. I think that got a notice of incremental extensions multiple times, and that deployment was nearly 9 months long, similar to the USS Harry S. Truman. So we kind of anticipate something around 7 months. However, I'll tell you, I don't have a thing on my calendar X'd out. My wife and I talk about when I'm coming home, and we're optimistic to come home on schedule. We're always ready to answer the nation's call.
How do you keep morale up when you know you might be extended? I mean, the average time for an East Coast carrier is pushing like 280 days.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think I saw Sage around here somewhere. I don't know if you've met Sage, our facility dog. That she's part of the solution. I think, all kidding aside though, and just going to foundational principles, it's about communicating with the crew, and this is part of that today. So if I could have just the ship's captain comment on morale around the ship and how you do that, because this is a huge beast behind me with thousands of people that call it home every day, and the ship's captain is responsible for exactly what you just asked.
Good morning, everybody. Captain Scarosi. Just like the Admiral said, it's foundational stuff. Chiefs and officers leading their people, taking care of their people, being ready to take care of the families at home. What I do know, all around throughout this entire pre-deployment cycle, the crew has been enthusiastic and led with vigor,
And the families, I'd be very remiss. The families are a critical part of the morale of the crew, and we have a good strategy to communicate home with the families. And they've made our sailors ready and resilient.
If I could add on to that too, so just two more aspects of morale. Man, I am passionate about morale. So first of all, having a purpose and having a reason for why we are doing what we are doing. And the events in the world in the last few years have been just a reinforcing thing about why what we do is so important and why every sailor on this ship has an important job that we need them for. So you need to wake up every morning with purpose in your heart. And we have a whole lot of that. And then just another kind of specific point, we're able to deploy now with kind of internet and Wi-Fi on the ship, and to have our connectivity back to our families is so much better in 2025 than it was when I started in the Navy. We used to write letters. I still anticipate doing that, by the way. If my wife is watching, I will write you letters. And but also we communicate via electronic means, and we're able to stay in contact and stay up to date on what's going on around the world. So thank you for that question. It's really important to me.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. I really appreciate it. So that concludes our media availability. I will stay behind if you have any other questions or to identify any of the spokespeople. And thank you so much.
Okay, that video just from yesterday as the USS Gerald Ford Strike Group with the Navy set to deploy from Norfolk, Virginia to the Middle East for coverage out there. So that was just yesterday. President Trump posting a lot on Truth Social this morning. Our producers have a number of those posts that we'll put up in just a second, but let's go to a couple sponsors as it's the bottom of the hour, angelpaste.com. You see the Miracle Cream there? There's a lot of products on angelpaste.com. So all you have to do is go there, use the RSBN promo code, purchase these great products. If you'd like to get at least one of them, the Miracle Cream is a good one to start with. So angelpaste.com out of Spring, Texas. Of course, hiring military veterans, a great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's also go to callshe.com/RSBN. If you're looking to better trade on various topics out there, whether it's the global scene, domestic scene, sports scene, all sorts of scenes, callshe.com/RSBN is the place to do it. You see that QR code on your screen. Callshe.com, a great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. All right, so bottom of the hour, Tuesday, June 24th. President Trump on Truth Social as he's on his way to The Hague in the Netherlands for the NATO summit. We'll get into some details about that in just a minute, but let's pull up some of those Truth Social posts here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. This one. Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do it, it's a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States. Of course, that was from earlier this morning at 6:50. We can continue on and kind of roll through a few of them if we'd like right now, as we know that President Trump has been active on Truth this morning, saying Israel is not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. Nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. So we see that with President Trump. That was at 7:28 this morning. That may be from the Central Time there. So possibly 8:28 this morning from President Trump. If there are any more posts that we want to refer to, we can do that. There we go. Iran will never rebuild their nuclear facilities, according to President Trump on Truth Social. We can continue on if there are any others that we'd like to see here as we await this GOP press conference. This is a great way to do it, just to start out your morning with a bunch of Truth Social posts, because this is the commander-in-chief. This is the leader of the free world saying, heading to NATO, where at worst it will be a much calmer period than what I just went through with Israel and Iran. I look forward to seeing all of my very good European friends and others. Hopefully much will be accomplished. So specifically, that's right, this is at The Hague in the Netherlands, so that's where President Trump is heading. Now, as for that trip, this is the world leader meeting, specifically of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, aka NATO. The North Atlantic Alliance meetings were heavily focused on bolstering security capabilities against various threats and also nuclear deterrence. Interesting time for that discussion right now, of course. During his visit, we expect President Trump to participate in a dinner with the King and the Queen of the Netherlands and also other world leaders. There will be 2 family photos, 1 summit session, and various bilateral and multilateral meetings. So the president expects to conclude his visit with a press conference at the World Forum, and that, I believe, will be tomorrow. So there is a two-day situation here for the president. It's today, which is Tuesday, June 24th, and then Wednesday, June 25th, and then the president will be returning to the United States tomorrow. So a lot to be done in these 48 hours, but my oh my, the past 24 to 48 to 72 hours, as you guys know, has been at lightning speed, has been a lot of the 24/7 news cycle really in a high gear, especially when it comes to the global situation. But it's great to see that there are things that it appears to right now be calming down there in the Middle East. Now, what would be great is to see the same thing with Ukraine and Russia and any other conflicts around the globe. Obviously in a perfect world, but we know it's not a perfect world, but we're hoping to have the right things happen here on this side of heaven. All right, so it's 9:32, Tuesday, June 24th. Let's do this. We have a number of videos to get to as well. With the NATO situation, Matthew Whitaker is the U.S. ambassador to NATO. He actually posted a video pretty recently. We're going to get to that video here shortly. We also have a video back here in the homeland as well when it comes to the southern border. We can toss to that in a bit from San Diego. Just kind of a refresher on what's going on there with the Army, the Marines, the Customs Border Protection agents. You saw yesterday with Kristi Noem announcing a brand new facility, a training facility for CBP agents in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. So great to see that there are these facilities opening up to train more agents to be there along the southern border, the northern border, and of course they actually join our Navy and Coast Guard sometimes and are with them on the boats on the open sea, whether it's the Atlantic, the Gulf of America, the Pacific Ocean, all over the place. So we'll go to a video though. This video that we'll have a bit later is on the ground in San Diego, right there along the border. It's about a 3-minute video, but the thing that's great is you're going to hear from the Marines and some of the military there talking about what they're doing. And this is a video that the DOD has posted not too long ago, this month. So we'll look at that. Also, according to Customs and Border Protection, they just located, which we'll show you a little bit later, some pictures of a tunnel that was found from Tijuana to the San Diego region. So not only are our service members and law enforcement and Customs Border Protection, taking care of the southern border with the new wall that is being built still, and then through the big beautiful bill, if that's passed through the Senate and signed by President Trump, that will finish the entire wall. The specifics on that is the fact that we were able to see that there was a underground tunnel trying to pass narcotics and that kind of thing through that. So there's just a lot of coverage going on outside of the Israel-Iran conflict, and maybe the conflict is now going to stay in peace. This would be a great outcome to the situation there. All right, so we have a number of videos to go to. Director, which video is ready? Is it the NATO? Okay, so before we get into the NATO video, the southern border video, and we have a couple other interesting things to talk about coming up as we await this GOP press conference. The DOD did post a video showing the B-2 bombers when they were involved over the past 24 to 48, 72 hours. So let's go to that video right now. Okay, so the Whitman Air Force Base in Missouri, as our B-2 bombers obviously landing there. That was video just from yesterday released by the Pentagon. We'll be shifting to talk more about NATO coming up and the southern border. And also something that's really interesting today. In Washington, D.C., it's going to reach 99 degrees. I wonder if it's going to reach that 3-digit 100-degree mark. It's going to be hotter in D.C. today than in the Deep South, which is interesting. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a minute as we are looking live there at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. All right, shifting back now to NATO, where Matthew Whitaker is the ambassador, the U.S. ambassador to NATO. We'll be going to a video there in just a minute, as we also want to let you know about PatriotAddictDeals.com. You can purchase the Trump Force One airplane, PatriotAddictDeals.com right there. Get your limited edition, of course, 20% off by using the RSBN 20 promo code. Quite cool to see something like that and have that on your desk or wherever you'd like to put it. Maybe on the mantle. I'm not sure how large the plane is, but if you have a large mantle, maybe it'll work. But the Trump Force One plane, PatriotAddictDeals.com. Also, MyPillow.com/RSBN. If you'd like to get a free pillow that says, "With God, all things are possible," all you have to do is purchase one item on MyPillow.com. You can use the promo code there, RSBN, of course, mypillow.com/RSBN. Also, more than 2,000 products, of course, on this website, mypillow.com/RSBN. All right, so it's about 20 minutes to the 10 o'clock slated start time for the GOP press conference on Capitol Hill. We'll take you there live as soon as that starts. Now, it may start a little bit later. Sometimes it's 10:30 start time. You can always tell when the reporters are seated. If it's a full slate of reporters already seated and they're not really talking, you know that they've got the 2-minute warning. That usually at these press conferences, you'll hear about a 2-minute warning that will start. But we'll see once we get that feed there in about 20 minutes or so. And we'll take you there live as we monitor the news that's happening. Of course, President Trump on his way to The Hague there in the Netherlands for the NATO summit. He'll be there today, he'll be there tomorrow, and then he'll return to Washington, D.C. Let's go to the U.S. ambassador to NATO, Matthew Whitaker, posting a recent video on his X account. Take a look.
You've heard it before. This NATO summit is historic. This time, it really is. Here's why. On behalf of the Trump administration, my team and I have been working around the clock to prepare for the summit in The Hague. And let me tell you, this one's a game changer. This year, we're laser focused. 5%. That's the headline, that's the mission. 5% of GDP for defense. Not just spending, but building real capability, real deterrence, and real power. In 2014, NATO set a 2% goal. A decade later, some allies are finally getting there. But we've got to do more, because peace through strength demands nothing less. In just 2 days, President Trump will move this forward toward one of the most significant foreign policy achievements in recent history. Let's raise the bar. Let's get it done. The time is now.
Okay, so that's Matthew Whitaker, of course, from Iowa. And speaking of Iowa, July 3rd, guess what? It's going to be Rally Day in America right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, the Iowa State Fairgrounds. So President Trump will be having a speech there, really to kick off the America 250, which is all about our country being 250 years young on July 4th of 2026. So we're just north of that in the sense of a year, just slightly north of it. Where we are going to be 250 years old, this great country. And President Trump will be speaking on July 3rd. You can count on RSBN for live coverage from Iowa there. It's going to be awesome to see Rally Day in America, to see the president speaking there at the Iowa State Fairgrounds. By the way, that is where, according to Agenda 47 back months ago, where the 2026 grand event will be held. Maybe there might be a change, who knows, but we know that at least on July 3rd, it'll be in Iowa. And again, Matthew Whitaker, who you just saw, the U.S. ambassador to NATO, is from the Hawkeye State, a great state. Been there a few times covering President Trump during the Iowa caucus, you remember? And then people were wondering, you know, how's he going to do? How's President Trump going to do? Well, we know how he did there, and then New Hampshire, and then you remember the U.S. Virgin Islands, and then Nevada, and just the winning. So really looking forward to just great things happening in this country. I know we're, you know, on the, I'll just call it the hangover of what just happened. I mean, it's really, really tough whenever you have to talk about the possibility of war or these kind of airstrikes and our country being involved. But President Trump making that decision on Saturday night, 3 sites in Iran hit. Now what we're seeing is that Israel and Iran are at peace, at least at this moment, thanks to President Trump, thanks to the people just deciding that, okay, let's stop this. Hopefully that'll continue. We'll see. We'll monitor it here at Right Side. Of course, we, if you're just joining us, looked at a number of President Trump's Truth Social posts from this morning as he is now on Air Force One. He said on his way to The Hague there. Now, The Hague, when you look at it, it literally is called The Hague. So it's not just Hague, the Netherlands. It's The Hague is the actual town, if you look it up on Apple Maps or Google Maps, wherever you'd like to look. So, all right, so it's 9:44. The House GOP leadership will hold a press conference at 10 a.m. Eastern. And if that's late at all, excuse me, 10:30 is sometimes when it starts. So we'll bring that to you live regardless of when that happens. Okay, so All Family Pharmacy, a great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Of course, disasters, they don't wait, and neither should you. Power outages, blocked roads, empty pharmacy shelves. It only takes one emergency to leave you without the medications you need. So whether it's a hurricane, wildfire, or a new virus threat, All Family Pharmacy is here for you. They make it easy to stock up on ivermectin, mebendazole, I have to get that one correct, antibiotics, daily medications, and more. So over 200 essential medications with a doctor's prescription, including fast delivery to your door. So no insurance needed, no pharmacy lines, no last-minute scrambling. RSBN viewers actually get 20% off everything through June 30th with that RSBN 20 promo code. So you don't have to wait for a disaster to remind you how important it is to be prepared. So these guys are great. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Thanks so much for the sponsorship, but also great product right there. When you get ivermectin sent to you straight there to your door, instead of going through all the other hoops sometimes that you have to go through, which is most of the time, especially when it comes to things like ivermectin. Let's go to Colonial Metals Group as well, freegoldguide.com/RSBN. You can get a free info kit on gold and silver and what the 1, 2, 3s are on how to really get started on this process. And if you have any interest at all, at least get the info kit. Just go to freegoldguide.com/RSBN. You'll be able to protect your IRA, your 401k with gold 100% tax-free. Colonial Metals Group, another great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's 9:46 Eastern Time. Let's shift from, we started the broadcast talking about Israel and Iran and President Trump's Truth Social posts. We're still monitoring any developments if there are any. Then we shifted over to NATO. As we know, President Trump's on his way to the Netherlands. And then we shifted now to the southern border. Let's go to a video that was recently posted or delivered by the Department of Defense on the southern border. If you're wondering what's going on there, this video is from just a couple weeks ago in the Southern California region. Let's take a look at that video as we continue to await this GOP leadership press conference.
I am Lieutenant Colonel Tyrone Barrione. I'm the commanding officer of 1st Combat Engineer Battalion. I'm also the commanding officer of Task Force Sapper for the JTF, Joint Task Force Southern Border. So Task Force Sapper's primary mission is conduct general engineering. And this particular stage of the mission is barrier reinforcement. There is an existing barrier, both a primary and a secondary barrier here on the Mexican-American border in San Diego. So there's roughly about 15 to 18 miles of this barrier. And we are conducting reinforcement with concertina wire, an obstacle that delays and disrupts any illegal activity and crossings.
So we've been placing concertina wire by welding the engineer stakes, the green E stakes, welding them onto the barrier, and then tying in the concertina wire on top of that. So before we got out here to place a secondary obstacle, illegal aliens were crossing the barrier by cutting segments at the bottom, as well as crossing over the top of it. The crossings over the top, as well as the crossings at the bottom, influenced the design of the barrier and showed us the need for some sort of obstacle towards the ground, as well as something closer to the top, but not something so close that they'd be able to easily maneuver over it.
The equipment that we're using, welding equipment, is not unfamiliar for most of our Marines who have the specialty. However, we don't have the depth of welders in the Marine Corps, frankly, that is required out here. So what we have done is gathered Marines who have experience from welding, Marines who have it as a specialty, and we have provided them OJT, on-the-job training, and we've provided them opportunities to learn how to weld in this basic manner to apply the brackets. And as they gain proficiency and show proficiency, we then move them into higher and more challenging employment of the welding kit and the brackets for the barrier reinforcement. Here, and primarily with 1st Cavalry Ninja Battalion, one of their training and readiness standards is the installation of concertina wire, triple strand, rows of 11, and we do that as obstacle and placement in support of the 1st Marine Division. What is new and unique here is that we are now applying it above the deck onto a structure that already exists versus on the ground using E-stakes and pounding them in. And so this is a permanent application of wire to the barrier. We cannot prevent all crossings with our obstacle. It has to be paired with the activities and mission that the Army is doing with their monitoring, detecting, and deterring of crossings, and the U.S. Border Patrol also doing the same thing. There are young men and women here that are proud to serve their country, and they are proud to do a mission that makes sure that their loved ones are safe.
All right, great to see our military on the southern border alongside Customs Border Protection agents and local law enforcement in some cases saying, hey, we want to help too because this is our community being affected as well. Now, we're not seeing the effect as much in the sense of the amount of illegal aliens that would be crossing. Those numbers they're gone. There's nobody really trying to cross that southern border, especially with the Customs Border Protection agents, the military, and local law enforcement. Some are trying to do the following. If you take a look at this ex-post from Customs Border Protection, this is a tunnel, we're told, that some of the drug cartel and some people that are trying to go from Tijuana through to California. Well, Customs Border Protection, you can't do it. You know, you can't pass through the tunnels, you can't pass through the fence, you can't pass around the fence, you can't go through or on a boat when it comes to the Pacific Ocean or the Gulf of America or the Atlantic. It's just not really going to happen. Of course, the Atlantic, of course, no border there because it's just Florida on that side and then the waters around it. But I'm talking about, you know, eastern Texas, of course, with the Gulf of America. But yeah, so that's from Customs Border Protection from not too long ago. So that's one of the latest posts there. All right, so we're also hearing that we have video from the President of the United States that left early this morning on his way to the Netherlands. He was walking out of the White House to the southern lawn, of course, or the southern part of the White House, to the south lawn, on his way to Marine One, and he stopped and talked to some reporters. So as soon as that's ready, we'll go to that here on Right Side. And it'll be great to hear from the President here in just a minute. As we're about 8 minutes out from the House GOP Leadership Press Conference. Also, we have a couple more videos we'll be playing for you. Actually, one more video and one interesting poll that I put out there on my Truth Social, just a little bit of a lighter note, but we'll get to that in a minute as we await this video for President Trump. Again, he spoke to reporters. Let's go to that actually right now.
I don't think so, but I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit, and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down. Ridiculous. I didn't like plenty of things I saw yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong. But in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot. And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either. Because all I do is play both sides. I'm going now, as you know, to NATO. Some of you are going with me, and I think it's going to be successful. We'll see. I'll let you know.
Are you going to achieve the agreement? It's a new dawn in the Middle East agreement you managed to achieve. What are your future plans for the region, for Saudi Arabia, Israel, Gaza, the hostages?
Look, you're asking me about women in the Middle East. It's getting a lot better. Things are happening at a high level. As you know, Saudi Arabia's done a really good job. It's coming out far faster than I thought. So we're very happy about what's happening with women in the Middle East.
No, I'm talking about a new dawn in the Middle East that you managed to achieve last night.
Yeah.
The region is going to a new place with the agreement. Can you tell us what's your future plans for Gaza, for the hostages?
It's a new dawn. I appreciate the question. You're very nice. Who are you?
Thank you. I'm Neria Kraus from Israeli Channel 13 News.
Well, we have to have Israel calm down because they went on a mission this morning. I got to get Israel to calm down now.
Did you get to speak with Prime Minister? Did you talk to Prime Minister Netanyahu?
I speak to everybody.
You urged
both sides not to violate the ceasefire, but reports coming from the region suggest that the sides accuse each other for violating the ceasefire. So
I think they both violated it. I don't think I'm not sure they did it intentionally. They couldn't rein people back. I don't like the fact that Israel went out this morning at all, and I'm going to see if I can stop it. So as soon as I get away from you, I'm going to see if I can stop it, okay? I think it's been completely demolished. I think the reason we're here is because those pilots, those B-2 pilots, did an unbelievable job. And you know, the fake news, like CNN in particular, they're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed. You know what they're doing? They're really hurting great pilots that put their lives in the line. CNN is scum, and so is MSDNC. They're all, and frankly, the networks aren't much better. It's all fake news, but they should not have done that. Those pilots hit their targets. Those targets were obliterated, and the pilots should be given credit. They're not after the pilots, they're after me. They want to try and demean. No, Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there? Absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. The B-2 pilots did their job. They did it better than anybody could even imagine. They hit late in the evening. It was dark with no moon, and they hit that target with every one of those things, and that place is gone. But when I see CNN all night long, they're trying to say, well, maybe it wasn't really as demolished as we thought. It was demolished. You take a look at the pinpricks, and you see that place is gone. And I will say, I think CNN ought to apologize to the pilots of the B-2s. I think that MSDNC ought to apologize. I think these guys really, these networks and these cable networks are real losers. You really are. You're real losers. You're gutless losers. I say that to CNN because I watch it. I have no choice. I got to watch that garbage. It's all garbage. It's all fake news. But I think CNN is a gutless group of people, and the people that run it, nobody even knows it's been sold so many times, but the people that run it ought to be ashamed. MSDNC, a guy named Brian Roberts, he heads it. He's a disgrace. He's a weak, pathetic disgrace.
Iran violated the peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
You heard it right. President Trump said the F-bomb right there on Right Side Broadcasting Network. And you know what? Sometimes the F-bomb, it is what it is, you know? Anyway, so President Trump right there, the commander-in-chief, just telling it like it is. And that's, again, one of the main things. There's many things as to why President Trump won 3 straight elections. One of them is the fact that he's just going to tell it like it is, just like you or I maybe not use that word, maybe you will. It is what it is. But that's wild. That's the first time I heard it. I did hear something, or I read something about it, but I did not get to see that until just now. So, all right, so that's going to be a soundbite played all around the country and maybe the world. Also, what's being read all around the country and all around the world are President Trump's Truth Social posts from this morning. Let's go in rapid succession, maybe a rapid flow of Truth Social right now from President Trump as he spoke a lot about various things this morning. That is a live feed from the GOP press conference, which may be starting any minute from now. It's scheduled for 10 a.m., however. We don't know when it will specifically start. So that's that. We'll go there as soon as it starts. It's in a different room this time at the Capitol building. Usually it's in a more of a press conference looking setting, but that's a beautiful room right there where the GOP leadership will hold that press conference. So as we await that, let's go over to those Truth Social posts from President Trump just from this morning saying heading to NATO, where at worst it'll be a much calmer period than what I just went through with Israel and Iran. I look forward to seeing all of my very good European friends and others. Hopefully much will be accomplished. If we want to go to any other Truth Social posts, we can go through them. China can now continue to purchase oil from Iran. Hopefully they will be purchasing plenty from the United States. Also, it was my great honor to make this happen. That from 9:14 this morning. June 24th, of course, it is now 10 a.m. On the East Coast, Tuesday, June 24th, as the president already on his way now on Air Force One to Europe, up there to the Netherlands, specifically The Hague. This is all about specifically a world leader meeting that's happening there. With the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, aka, of course, NATO. The North Atlantic Alliance meetings, we're told, will focus heavily on bolstering security capabilities against various threats and also nuclear deterrence. During his visit, we expect that President Trump will actually participate, though, in a dinner with the King and the Queen of the Netherlands and other world leaders. There will be 2 family photos, 1 summit session, and various bilateral and multilateral meetings. We're also told that the president expects to conclude his visit with a press conference at the World Forum. So that's happening today and tomorrow. I believe that press conference will be tomorrow because we know that President Trump has quite the schedule today and tomorrow there in the Netherlands. We'll be having that coverage as we get it here. Now, the bottom right of your screen is the GOP Leadership Press Conference, which is slated to start any minute from now. I've covered a few of these. Sometimes they start around 10:30, 10:25, that kind of thing, or sometimes 10:05 or any second from now. So as soon as we see that, we'll go to it live. In the meantime, President Trump on Truth Social, outside of some of these posts that you see there, which were from just a little bit earlier, he literally posted 5 minutes ago a post, and also 25 minutes ago, and also 44 minutes ago. So there's a lot to get to there. Let's go with the 46 minutes ago. Actually, we just read that one. We'll go to another one. I'm just checking up here on the screen, specifically one that we can go over. Let's go with this one. 5 minutes ago, it says, stupid AOC. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, one of the dumbest people in Congress, is now calling for my impeachment, despite the fact that the crooked and corrupt Democrats have already done that twice before. The reason for her ratings or rantings is all of the victories that the USA has had under the Trump administration. The Democrats aren't used to winning, and she can't stand the concept of our country being successful again. When we examine her test scores, we'll find out that she is not qualified for, let's see here, I had to open the post up to expand it, qualified for office, but nevertheless far more qualified than Crockett, who is a seriously low IQ individual, or Ilhan Omar, who does nothing but complain about our country. This is great. I love reading President Trump's posts because he just rips it here, man. Did you hear what he said earlier? He used the F-bomb. I mean, this is just, this is a different time we're living in. An outsider as the president, this is what it looks like. And this is winning in a way that we just haven't won before. Again, I believe President Trump is in the same group of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln. He is an overcomer. He's an outsider. And whether you were for or against what just happened on Saturday night, what we're seeing right now is not a war. What we're seeing right now is peace. So hopefully it stays that way. Of course, everybody has their opinion on the matter, but I'm reporting just the facts of what's happening at this point. Not saying I'm for or against. I'm just staying down the middle on it because that's partly what we have to do here, of course. When we report news, we report facts through common sense lens. And then also, yes, we do share our opinions. We do share commentary. But there's a time and place for that, in my opinion, when it comes to specifics, like what we just saw over the past 24 to 48 to 72 hours. So I'm going to continue to read more from President Trump's post here. So Ilhan Omar, who does nothing but complain about our country, yet the failed country that she comes from doesn't have a government, is drenched in crime and poverty, and is rated one of the worst in the world, even if it's rated at all. How dare the mouse tells us how to run the United States of America. We're just now coming back from that radical left experiment with Sleepy Joe, Kamala, and the auto pen in charge. What a disaster it was. What a disaster it was. AOC should be forced to take the cognitive test that I just completed at Walter Reed Medical Center as part of my physical. As the doctor in charge said, President Trump aced it, meaning I got every answer right. Instead of her constant complaining, Alexandria should go back home to Queens, where I was also brought up, and straighten out her filthy, disgusting, crime-ridden streets in the district she quote-unquote represents, and which she never goes to anymore. She better start worrying about her own primary before she thinks about beating our great Palestinian Senator crying Chuck Schumer, whose career is definitely on very thin ice. She and her Democrat friends have just hit the lowest poll numbers in congressional history, so go ahead and try impeaching me again. Make my day. In all caps, President Trump at 9:56 Eastern Time, literally 11 minutes ago. I know that was a long one to read, but that's from the president, the commander-in-chief, so glad to read it with you. Wow. Okay, so this is great to go to this one too. Let's go to that post coming up here in a second. I'm going to get to it on my screen. And this is from Mark Rutt. Mr. President, dear Donald, congratulations and thank you for your decisive action in Iran. That was truly extraordinary and something no one else dared to do. It makes us all safer. You are flying into another big success, The Hague, this evening. It was not easy, but we've got them all signed on to 5%. Donald, you have driven us to a really important moment for America and Europe and the world. You will achieve something no, American president in decades could get done. Europe is going to pay in a big way, as they should, and it will be your win. Safe travels, and see you at His Majesty's dinner, Mark Rutt. So that from Truth Social as well, as it's 10:06 Eastern Time. We've been live since about 9:10 this morning as we're covering the GOP press conference, and of course going through all of these Truth Social posts from President Trump in regards to Israel and Iran, but also he spoke to reporters, as you saw on the South Lawn. He also, of course, speaking about AOC and Chuck Schumer on Truth Social, and also sharing with us text messages, just like he did with Mike Huckabee, the U.S. ambassador to Israel, and then now one from Mark Rutt about the NATO trip, but also congratulating the president on a success with what happened there in Iran. So we're monitoring a lot of news right now, and I know we're jumping all over the place with it, but we have to monitor a lot when there's a lot happening. So talking about Israel and Iran, the peace that it looks to be happening there, NATO, the president's comments from outside of the White House today. He's on the way to the Netherlands, the GOP press conference, a lot going on. And I'm going to talk about something that I find fascinating on just the weather front coming up in just a second. In the meantime, let's go to a couple of sponsors here on Right Side as we await this press conference there in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill, of course. Let's go to angelpaste.com/RSBN. Actually, it's just angelpaste.com. You can use the RSBN promo code to get a percentage off. Also, there are a lot of products on there, so it's not just the Miracle Cream, even though that's the flagship showcase product, but there are a number of products there. So maybe try the Miracle Cream, but then also purchase something else. Use the RSBN promo code, angelpaste.com. Also, we can go to another sponsor with Right Side, of course, callsheet.com/RSBN. If you're looking to bet or trade on really anything, you can do that on callsheet.com. Anything from global situations to domestic situations or sports or weather, which we're going to talk about here in a second. Callsheet.com/RSBN, great sponsor. Also a great app that they have as well. It's 10:09 Eastern, Tuesday, June 24th. Thanks so much for streaming in. Get ready to go there to the Capitol for the GOP Leadership Press Conference. All right. We did a lot of reading from Truth Social. Speaking of Truth Social, let's take a look at something I posted. I believe this was overnight, a little late. You know, it is what it is. President Trump was up posting, and I woke up and I saw that the temperatures will hit near 100 degrees today in Washington, D.C. That is about 7 degrees hotter than the Deep South down here in Alabama. First of all, that doesn't usually happen. Second of all, just on a lighter note, if you want to go partake in this poll, just have some fun with it. I love doing these polls once in a while. So what will it be like in your neck of the woods? Now, this is a twofold question, kind of, because it shows fall, winter, and spring, and it says hot, 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 and a perfect temperature. So what is, if you experience all 4 seasons, what's your favorite season? And also, if you'd like, what will it be like in your neck of the woods? It's not a multi-select, so you only get to select one. For me, I put bring on fall, even though we're still early in the summertime, even though I want to go on, to a beach trip and, and just enjoy, the summer. But it's just wild to see that temperatures will hit near 100 degrees today in Washington, and down here in the South, it's in the 90s, but the low 90s. So I thought that was quite interesting. So if you want, it's at Matthew Alvarez on Truth Social. Go ahead and vote if you'd like at 10:10 this morning as we continue our coverage on Right Side Broadcasting Network. All right, so we know that the press conference was scheduled for 10 this morning. It's about 10:10, of course. We saw earlier, if you're just joining us now, President Trump spoke to reporters on the South Lawn of the White House. I think we should play that again for the viewers that just are joining us. But also, Director, I'm wondering if we can maybe keep a split screen so we can see if we need to go to the GOP conference live. So please let me know if that's ready. We can go to President Trump on the South Lawn once again, where he spoke with reporters, used some, as some would say, colorful language. But you know what? Some people use the F word, and I'm not going to judge this way or that way on that. I think it's cool that President Trump is an outsider, and he speaks like some of us out there in the world, and he's straight up, and it is what it is. So, Director, do we have that video we can go to? All right, so they're almost getting that ready to go right now, as it's Tuesday, June 24th, 10:11 this morning, and we'll be going to the GOP press conference here in just a minute, live on Right Side Broadcasting Network. We did cover a lot of President Trump's Truth Social posts earlier today, and of course spoke about NATO as well. Matthew Whitaker posting a video as well from earlier. So if you're just joining us, there's about an hour or so of coverage that you might have missed. That's all right. You can always scrub back if you'd like, or just continue to watch us live. So thanks again for doing so. I know a lot of you watched us live over the past few days, including coverage yesterday as we had breaking news of the Iranian strike to one of our bases, but all of our military intercepted those rockets or missiles. I started the first half of that breaking news coverage, and then Robert McNeely, of course, was in here as well covering it. So it was great to tag team on that. But there's a new post that's just up. So let me double check that one quickly before we go to President Trump on Truth Social, actually on the video from earlier where he's on the South Lawn of the White House. So let me double check where this is coming from, this post here. scrolling down a little bit. I can't read it from this vantage point, so I'm going to have to see it here on the laptop. Here it is. So the UN chief saying, I very much welcome President Trump's announcement of a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. I urge the two countries to respect it fully. The fighting must stop. The people of the two countries have already suffered too much. He also says, it is my sincere hope that the ceasefire can be replicated in other conflicts in the region. Not only in the region, how about let's go shift up to Russia and Ukraine and just really everywhere. Wouldn't it be nice if it was just a peaceful summer and the woke mob stopped interfering with what we the people voted on, ICE deportations and all the things that are out there. Wouldn't it be great in a perfect world, right? Well, sometimes you still have to unplug from it and just go and enjoy your life a bit. But this past weekend, I remember putting on Truth Social that it's hard to unplug when something may happen. And that was Saturday when I posted that. And then Saturday evening is when the strikes to Iran happened from our country. So kind of felt something stirring. And we also saw that, of course, there was a 6 o'clock national security meeting in the Situation Room. Actually, it was at the Oval Office that time at 6 o'clock on Saturday. So then, of course, at 7:50, President Trump posted that the attack happened. And then he spoke to us at 10 o'clock that night. We had all that live coverage right here with more than millions, with more than 1 million people watching just on that stream alone and on replay throughout all of our platforms. So let's go back to President Trump. This is the South Lawn from this morning when he was going from the South Lawn to Marine One to Joint Base Andrews on the way to the Netherlands for NATO. So if you're just joining us, take a listen. Here's President Trump.
I don't think so, but I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit, and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down. It's ridiculous. I didn't like plenty of things I saw yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong. But in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot. And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either. Because all I do is play both sides. I'm going now, as you know, to NATO. Some of you are going with me, and I think it's going to be successful. We'll see. I'll let you know.
What are your future plans for the region, for Saudi Arabia, Israel, Gaza, the hostages?
Look, you're asking me about women in the Middle East. It's getting a lot better. Things are happening at a high level. As you know, Saudi Arabia's done a really good job. It's coming out far faster than I thought. So we're very happy about what's happening with women in the Middle East.
No, I'm talking about a new dawn in the Middle East that you managed to achieve last night.
Yeah.
The region is going to a new place with the peace agreement. Can you tell us what's your future plans for Gaza, for the hostages?
Yeah. It's a new dawn. I appreciate the question. You're very nice. Who are you?
Thank you. I'm Naria Kraus from Israeli Channel 13 News.
Well, we have to have Israel calm down because they went on a mission this morning. I got to get Israel to calm down now.
Did you get to speak with the Prime Minister? Did you talk to Prime Minister Netanyahu?
I speak to everybody.
You urge both sides not to violate the ceasefire, but reports coming from the region suggest that the sides accuse each other for violating the ceasefire. So
I think they both violated it. I don't think I'm not sure they did it intentionally. They couldn't rein people back. I don't like the fact that Israel went out this morning at all, and I'm going to see if I can stop it. So as soon as I get away from you, I'm going to see if I can stop it, okay? I think it's been completely demolished. I think the reason we're here is because those pilots, those B-2 pilots, did an unbelievable job. And the fake news, like CNN in particular, they're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed. You know what they're doing? They're really hurting great pilots that put their lives in the line. CNN is scum, and so is MSDNC. They're all, and frankly, the networks aren't much better. It's all fake news, but they should not have done that. Those pilots hit their targets. Those targets were obliterated, and the pilots should be given credit. They're not after the pilots, they're after me. They want to try and demean. No, Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there? Absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. The B-2 pilots did their job. They did it better than anybody could even imagine. They hit late in the evening. It was dark with no moon, and they hit that target with every one of those things, and that place is gone. But when I see CNN all night long, they're trying to say, well, maybe it wasn't really as demolished as we thought. It was demolished. You take a look at the pinpricks, and you see that place is gone. And I will say, I think CNN ought to apologize to the pilots of the B-2s. I think that MSDNC ought to apologize. I think these guys really, these networks and these cable networks are real losers. You really are. You're real losers. You're gutless losers. I say that to CNN because I watch it. I have no choice. I got to watch that garbage. It's all garbage. It's all fake news. But I think CNN is a gutless group of people. And the people that run it, nobody even knows it's been sold so many times. But the people that run it ought to be ashamed. MSDNC, a guy named Brian Roberts, he heads it. He's a disgrace. He's a weak, pathetic disgrace.
Iran violated the peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning Israel?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Right here. It's fine. I'm just thankful they have air conditioning here.
You want to do this outside? We can.
Holy Master Choli. Get in. You good? Well, good morning, everybody. So good to see you. I want to start by continuing to offer my prayers for the safety and security of our service members and all Americans in the Middle East. God bless them and God bless our troops who are keeping us safe. Now, over the weekend, President Trump delivered peace through strength. Operation Midnight Hammer was not only a historic and successful mission, it was a message to Iran, a message that resonates for years, if not decades to come. Iran will never be allowed to attain a nuclear weapon. And if Iran continues to try to go down this path, prepare to face the full fury and wrath of American firepower. Because of President Trump's decisive action, the world is a safer place. And let me be clear, America is safer, Israel is safer, and our allies are safer. And like President Vance said, we are not at war with Iran. We are at war with Iran's nuclear program. The war against their nuclear program is already paying off. And thank you to President Trump for his decisive action again. Peace through strength is working. Now, switching gears, let me say this. The American people are waiting. They want to know with certainty that their taxes won't increase $5,000 next year. They want to know that violent, illegal immigrants are not in their communities anymore. But they don't have it yet. Because unfortunately, they're still waiting for the one big, beautiful act. And each day that goes by is another day that Americans don't have the certainty that they deserve. Whether you're a small business owner, a senior on Social Security, a tipped service worker, or a first responder working overtime to protect our communities, the One Big Beautiful Bill helps you. Americans should not have to wait any longer. There's no time to waste. Let's get this done. Let's send this bill to President Trump's desk so it can become law. Now, here with me today is a fellow Michigander. He's a real person with a real story, waiting for the One Big Beautiful Bill to become law. Sam Palmetter is the President of Engineering and New Product Development at Laser Marketing Technologies in my home district of Carroll, Michigan. There are leaders in laser marketing and engraving technology, and I'll let Sam speak more to this, but they are eagerly awaiting for the immediate expensing for research and development so that they can continue being a leader in innovation right here in the United States of America. And now, without further ado, I will turn it over to my constituent and my friend, Sam.
Yeah, I don't need that box. Good morning. I'm not quite that tall, but I don't need that. So just real quick, Lisa has been such a spitfire for us in our district, not just during an election campaign year. She's in our factories, in our offices, year after year, checking on us, seeing what we need in our areas, and we can't appreciate her more. In all honesty, this lady doesn't need to do this, and she's doing it from her heart, and I can't thank her enough for what she's doing personally to really help manufacturing in America. So with that, let me get on track here for y'all, right? So thank you to House Republican leadership, including my Congresswoman, the awesome Chairman, Lisa McClain, for this opportunity to share the reason the Big Beautiful Bill needs to be signed into law. As the founder of Laser Marketing Technologies over 20 years ago, and as a lifelong resident of Michigan, a manufacturing state, I've seen firsthand the demise of the manufacturing sector in America and good-paying manufacturing jobs. It has slowly been outsourced to other countries that have taken advantage of the U.S. My company is one of the last two laser technology companies fully owned and operated in America. We had a third competitor from Ohio that tried to hang on but went bankrupt and was subsequently purchased last year by a foreign entity. Now think about that, right? These are the guys, we're the ones that are in the background supplying a lot for the Department of Defense, other items that are critical to our sovereignty. And this is going to foreign actors that own it. So this is what's happening to America. Our manufacturing IP is being bled off to other countries. That needs to stop now before we don't have the manufacturing and intellectual property to build what is needed for our military and other vital industries. So with that, the following items in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that really matter to me and many other small business owners, not just in Michigan, but throughout the U.S., are the permanent increase of the qualified business income deduction to keep our taxes low and competitive on a global scale, not just in the U.S., but we are competing against everybody else. So why is our taxes so much higher than other countries? No tax and overtime was great for my employees. Just imagine if you're in trades, right? You're a trades person and you work an extra 20 hours and you get your check and you look at it. You guys ever go through this? Anybody? Maybe not. But if you're in trades or anything like that, even if you work at a grocery store and you see that overtime, you think you're going to bring that in, and that's half of what you thought it was going to be because somebody else got your money. It didn't go in your pocket and it never will. Let's change that, right? That's part of this Big Beautiful Bill. That's really, really phenomenal. And that should really resonate with everybody that's actually working with their hands, right? The people that serve you food, everything. Specialty deduction allowance for qualified production property. This will allow us to invest into the future and will immediately allow us to double our manufacturing space. So instead of expensing this off across 40 years, I'll be 90 years old by then, right? What's that going to matter to me? But if I can expense our manufacturing additions and new buildings that we need to build so we can supply the machinery for the U.S., we can do that and immediately write that off. And that means something because that puts it back in and we put it right back into our local economy. What is that saying? High tide rises all boats. That's what this is about, right? We do this. It's not trickle-down economics or whatever, which I have nothing against, but let's think about it, right? if we are putting this money back into the U.S. manufacturing, where tradespeople are building these buildings and then qualified, good paying jobs for workers. So the One Big Beautiful Act encourages American businesses to create new things in the U.S. to get our economy back on track. This bill incentivizes us to create new jobs in the U.S., and we are incentivized to manufacture in the USA. And with this new law, we will continue to do this, but at a much, much faster rate. I'm excited to keep making it in America for America.
Great job. The One Big Beautiful Bill is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to deliver real-life results to the American people, as you just heard from Sam. From energy producers in Louisiana to police officers in Minnesota, this landmark legislation truly holds promise for every single American. Today's guests are a testament to that. I'm proud to welcome James Stewart to speak this morning on the impact of the One Big Beautiful Bill that it will have on law enforcement officers in Minnesota and across America. With more than 30 years of frontline experience, Sheriff Stewart is here today on behalf of the Minnesota Sheriff's Association to represent the men and women who sacrifice their safety, comfort, and time to keep us all safe. Some even make the ultimate sacrifice with their lives. President Trump and House Republicans stand with our nation's brave law enforcement officers. The One Big Beautiful Bill makes clear that we don't just do so with words, but with our actions. President Trump campaigned on no tax on overtime, and now we're following through on that promise. To the benefit of our men and women in blue, by the way, and their families. And I thank the President for his vision of a prosperous America that truly appreciates and honors the bravest among us. With that, I'll turn it over to Sheriff Stewart from Minnesota's 6th Congressional District.
Well, thank you, Congressman Emmer, for inviting me to speak this morning and for your leadership. My name is James Stewart. I'm the Executive Director and CEO for the Minnesota Sheriff's Association, a former Vice President for the National Sheriff's Association, and retired sheriff of Anoka County, located in Minnesota's 6th Congressional District. After more than 30 years in law enforcement, I know the sacrifice that is required to carry out the mission of protecting our communities. The sacrifice of late nights, weekends, and holidays away from the dinner table and special events with your family. Early mornings out the door before your children even wake up, and the mental toll of routinely encountering scenes that no human should ever have to witness. And the ultimate sacrifice some officers make with their life in exchange for a safer tomorrow for the people that they proudly serve and protect. Law enforcement officers sometimes work 100+ hours per pay period. And not only is that time spent away from their family and their friends, it is more time in the line of duty, putting their lives at risk. No tax and overtime pay would benefit our protectors all across the country in tremendous ways. The increase in take-home pay for these deputies and officers rewards the extra hours and the extra efforts that they devote to protecting their communities, impacting their own lives in significant ways. That is more money in their pockets to save, to invest, and to grow. With more net pay, our protectors could reduce financial burdens and ultimately the related stresses and rely less on second jobs and better focus on serving others in their demanding roles. But no tax and overtime won't just lead to a bigger paycheck. Law enforcement agencies across America right now are facing staffing shortages and struggle with recruitment and retention like never before. No tax and overtime would help keep seasoned officers on the force longer and decrease that turnover. The One Big Beautiful Bill passed by the House is the opportunity to honor our men and women in blue and reinforce the vital role that they play in our communities. The no tax and overtime pay policy is a clear message of respect and support to our nation's law enforcement officers, and the impact of this legislation cannot be understated. Our protectors across America want to see this change, and you all have the power to make it happen. I commend House Republicans for the work that they've done thus far to move this policy closer to the finish line, and I ask on behalf of peace officers across Minnesota and our entire nation that you continue full steam ahead in that work. For the moms missing dinner with their families tonight, and for the sons missing their birthdays for their families this weekend, and for the men and women in blue putting their lives on the line day after day and hour after hour, let's make this happen. Thank you.
Well, over the weekend, we saw President Trump take strong and decisive action to ensure that Iran does not any longer have a nuclear weapons program. Not only did the president work with our allies in the region, of course, working very closely with Israel, but the president defended America. Again, let's not forget, the Ayatollah and many others in his leadership structure have been chanting death to America for years as they tried to get a nuclear weapon under previous presidents who let this build and build for decades, and the world knew one day it had to be confronted. But the president didn't just take that strong and decisive action under the War Powers Resolution. In compliance with that law, he notified Congress within 48 hours of the actions that were taken. And hopefully that's as far as it's going to go. The president announced yesterday that there is now a ceasefire. Again, peace through strength, they're not just words. They have to be actions that a president of the United States who's strong and bold and decisive is willing to take those steps to keep America safe. And I think most people in the civilized world know that a nuclear-armed Iran is not just bad for America, but it's bad for other countries all around the world. Now, we've got another busy week here in Washington. Today, we're going to be debating the resolution to condemn the political violence in Minnesota. I think you'll see a very strong bipartisan message being sent by Congress that political violence is never acceptable. And you see the actions over the weekend with the state representative and her husband who were brutally murdered, the senator who was nearly killed. We keep all of them in our prayers and their families. But we know that justice will prevail. And ultimately, in America, we need to be united when we say that political violence is never the answer. We're going to also bring more legislation to protect Americans from illegals who come here and commit violence against our constituents. Somebody gets a DUI here while they're here illegally. And I saw this in my own district where you had an illegal who came about 8 times the legal limit and murdered an 18-year-old girl and her boyfriend. And he was fine, but they are no longer with us. And we see this every day in communities all across the country. We've given President Trump some tools in law, like the Laken Riley Act, to keep us safe from people who come here illegally and commit violent acts against our citizens. This will be one more of those tools. And of course, Friday we're going to have a vote to stand up for our ICE agents and for law enforcement in Los Angeles and other communities who are trying to keep us safe in the face of these violent riots, like the LA riots that you're seeing. That will be Friday. Of course, the overarching focus has been on the one big beautiful bill. The Senate finally has the legislation. They're moving forward. We've continued up here to talk about so many great things that this will do to get our economy back on track, to put more money in the pockets of hardworking families through so many provisions like certainty in the tax code, ensuring that you don't have a massive tax increase that would hit lower and middle income families, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, the ability to have bonus depreciation, some of the other things that would bring investment into this country. But we also have so many other provisions. Border security, of course, is one, but energy security is a big component of this bill to allow America to continue producing more oil so we don't have to be dependent on foreign countries. So world markets aren't worried about an action Iran might take. When you saw them talking about shutting off the Strait of Hormuz, you really didn't see much of a change in oil prices because America and our allies can now pick up the slack because you have a president, Donald Trump, who wants to open up more American energy opportunities. And so do our friends around the world. And in this bill, we have a number of provisions to do that. But rather than me talk about those provisions, and I love the great work that South Louisiana is involved in so many different fronts at producing energy for the rest of the country and the world. But I am proud to have one of my constituents, Paul Danos, whose family for 3 generations has been involved in the energy industry. He knows just what it takes to produce American energy and the challenges that can be posed if Congress and the White House don't get it right, and what opportunities we have ahead for our country if we do get it right. That great leader is my friend Paul Dennis.
Thank you, Leader Scalise, for having me here today for that introduction. Good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Danos. I am CEO and one of the owners of Danos. We are a 78-year-old, third-generation family-owned and managed energy services firm headquartered down in southeast Louisiana. We provide frontline workforce that enable companies to explore, produce, and develop the energy in the Gulf of America. I'm honored to share with you the positive impact that this bill will have on family-run businesses in our areas and our employees around the country, and how critical this bill is for American energy dominance. I'm honored to represent so many hardworking people that provide safe, reliable, and affordable energy to our country. My grandfather, Alan Danos Sr., he took a risk. He had a dream in 1947 to create jobs for his community, prosperity for his community, and security for our nation. But during the previous administration, that sort of innovation and spirit was stifled. Oil and gas leases were canceled, they were nullified, and altogether stopped. This bill is a lifeline for American energy and restores the kind of predictability that businesses like ours need to invest and to grow. Predictability keeps capital flowing, and when capital flows, companies like Danos can invest in equipment and jobs and people and technology at home. You see, offshore projects take years to build. They're multi-billion-dollar investments, and without clarity and consistency with lease sales, businesses can't make the long-term investment decisions that are needed to grow their workforce and acquire equipment. So when lease sales stall or disappear, that doesn't just cause a pause in our business. Those opportunities can vanish. So when that happens, good paying jobs across the Gulf Coast and really around the country, because the supply chain throughout the country supports our energy in the Gulf of America. And that American energy and security is jeopardized. So this bill will help to restore American energy dominance. It'll make everyday goods less expensive, and it'll create jobs to secure America's energy future. And we know that energy security is national security. The more energy we can produce at home, the more that we can help our allies abroad to make sure that they aren't relying on hostile nations to get their energy. The Gulf of America is critical to America's energy economy and security. When Congress gets energy policy right, companies like Danos can do what we do best, deliver safe, reliable, affordable American energy. So I want to thank the Congress and President Trump for making good energy policy a priority in this legislation. Now I'll turn it over to Tony McAllister.
Paul, I know you're the CEO, but I get to control the podium. All right, no, that's all good.
They told me something different.
No, it's so great. What a great collection of Americans here. We wanted to come this morning. I have a lot of updates for you, and I'll get to it in a moment, but I want to continue with this theme real quick, because the big, beautiful bill is so important, literally to every sector of the U.S. economy. And we could have chosen, constituents of ours from any sector in the economy, but it occurs to me we chose just the letter L as our theme today, okay? You heard about lasers and law enforcement and liquefied natural gas. Now we're going to go to logging, because I brought Tony McAllister here, and she is a small business owner. She's going to talk to you about what it would mean to them. She's also a mother, and she's the wife of one of our greatest sheriffs in the state of Louisiana. They hail from Wynn Parish. The sheriff's standing in the back. He's the big guy with the badge. You can't miss him. But I'm so grateful that Tony is here with us. Now I'll turn it over to you. How about that? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for having me today. So my name is Tony McAllister. I'm a proud resident of rural Louisiana in the 4th Congressional District. I am a Louisiana logger. I'm a mom, I'm a wife of a Louisiana sheriff, and as a logger for years, small businesses like ours with our team of 30 hardworking employees have carried the weight of this governmental system that often seems to grow on the backs of small businesses and middle-class families like mine. It's been tough, it's been challenging to compete and to grow and to simply get a fair chance to thrive right here in the U.S. But today I'm filled with gratitude. I am thankful to President Trump and the House Republican leadership who have made it a priority to reset this system, to put hardworking Americans first, to support the businesses and the families who are the backbone of this great nation. When the One Big Beautiful Bill is signed into law, it will finally give small businesses like ours a better opportunity to not just to survive, but to grow and to succeed. Some of these have been mentioned already, but just as a reminder, this legislation will lower the effective tax rate for producing in America, increase and make permanent the small business deduction, double immediate small business expensing, and reduce reporting burdens for small businesses. In Louisiana, timber is not just what we do, it's who we are. It's the largest agricultural product in the state, and it is vital to the survival of so many rural communities across our state and across the South. This bill recognizes this impact of small businesses just like mine. It protects us, it strengthens us. For far too long, the U.S. has been one of the largest importers of raw pulp, pulpwood, and timber products. This has led to the shutdown of many mills and the loss of way too many American jobs. So I want to personally thank the President for continuing to fight to reduce unregulated imports from other countries and for standing firm to support American-made products by American workers. Another piece of this bill that hits even closer to home is the historic investment in our border security. This will protect our communities and support our law enforcement officers and agencies by keeping dangerous illegals out of our country. As a wife of a Louisiana sheriff, knowing that this administration is working hard to stand behind law enforcement gives me a peace of mind. It empowers our officers, federal, state, and local, to do their jobs because they know they have the backing of this administration and the Republicans in Congress. It means the world to me to see the leaders who value the safety, well-being, and dedication to those who put their lives on the line for us every single day. The One Big Beautiful Bill is more than policy. It's progress. It's progress for small business owners, for working families, for rural communities, and for our law enforcement. Again, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for having me. Thank you to the President for seeing us. Thank you for standing with us. Thank you to the House Republicans for working hard to get this done, not just for today, but for future generations. Thank you.
Thanks so much. It is about progress, Tony. That's so well said. And I'm so grateful for these fine Americans who stood here representing hundreds of millions of Americans in all their various endeavors. And this bill, the One Big Beautiful Bill, is geared for those hardworking Americans. It is going to help all boats rise. And we are so excited to get this thing over the line. And I'll give you more updates on that. In the meantime, Tony and Paul and Sam and Sheriff Stewart, thank you again for your time this morning. Let me zoom out. We'll just talk about foreign affairs quickly, and then we'll zoom back in on the big, beautiful bill. I know the conflict in the Middle East is top of mind for everyone, and it is for us as well. Over the weekend, of course, President Trump fulfilled what was a bipartisan, long-standing national security priority by carrying out successful strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. Everyone around the world applauded this expertly performed duty by our extraordinary unmatched military. Some of them applauded loudly and openly, and some of them quietly, but everybody except the evil regime in Iran knows this was the right thing to do. It's important to remember who we're discussing here, okay? Evil is the right word. Iran is the largest state sponsor of terrorism on planet Earth. The Iranian regime has been responsible for thousands of American deaths over the years, an untold number of maimings with roadside bombs all over the Middle East. They have funded and propped up terror proxies like Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, and their stated goal is the death and destruction of America, and of course Israel. That's why for decades presidents have talked tough on Iran. They've talked tough. President Clinton said, quote, "I believe all the Western nations have an overriding interest in containing the threat posed by Iran," unquote. President Obama, he said, "I have stated that Iran will never be allowed to obtain a nuclear weapon," unquote. President Biden, quote, "We will not," let me say again, "we will not allow Iran to acquire a nuclear weapon." But it was President Trump who did more than talk. He acted, and it was long overdue. And his decisive action led to a weakened and vulnerable Iran that gives them no other choice than to come to the table, which they refused to do in good faith before. The president secured a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, and despite of the temporary disruption this morning, we believe that will hold. Peace in the Middle East has never been closer within our grasp, and that is something that we should all embrace and applaud. And we were heartened to see even people on the other side of the aisle, right-thinking, common-sense folks, say that this was the right move. The ceasefire is fragile, but it is very real. I spoke to the President this morning right before Air Force One took off from the tarmac. He's headed over to the NATO meeting, as you all know. And we talked about his frustration with the temporary disruption and the ceasefire overnight. And he told me he had just spoken to Prime Minister Netanyahu and encouraged him not to retaliate in any heavy way. And I think that request has been heeded. I told the President that I would immediately echo the same sentiment to my counterpart over there and my good friend, Speaker Ohana and the Knesset. I did that. I believe that Israel and the United States are locked arm in arm on this, and that unified front and that common goal is what is going to maintain peace. So I just want to say overall, this is America First policy in action. This is, as has been said here already this morning, the penultimate demonstration of peace through strength. This is what it means. But you got to have a strong commander-in-chief to make sure that happens. Regarding the presidential authority, now naturally, of course, we've got some Democrats here on Capitol Hill who they have an allergic knee-jerk reaction to anything that President Trump does, no matter how noble and good. And they of course, are opposed to his latest work to make Americans safer and bring peace in the Middle East, if you can imagine that. Some have even called for his impeachment over this. It's absolutely outrageous. It would be comical if it were not so serious and stupid. Let me be clear and be as clear as possible. The strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities were clearly within President Trump's Article 2 powers as Commander-in-Chief. It shouldn't even be in dispute. Allow me to put my constitutional law hat on for a moment, because that's what I used to do, because both the law and the precedent are important for everyone to understand here. This may answer a lot of questions that you might ask this morning. The framers of our Constitution never intended for the President to seek the approval of Congress every time he exercises his constitutional authority under Article 2 as Commander-in-Chief. Alexander Hamilton argued in Federalist Number 70, just for one example, that, quote, energy in the executive is a leading character in the definition of good government. It is essential to the protection of the community against foreign attacks, unquote. This is why the framers did not explicitly set restrictions on the President when it comes to using military force. They understood something very practical about our matchless legislative body here in our Constitution. The way the Congress was set up, they knew it would be a deliberative body, and they knew that process by necessity would take time. And in an emergent and imminent situation, time is not something we always have the luxury of. And so they wanted, in moments of danger and conflict abroad, for one single hand of authority to have that authority to act decisively and effectively. Now we're hearing some talk about the War Powers Resolution. What is that exactly? Congress passed that legislation in 1973 under President Richard Nixon. It bars the use of armed forces in conflict beyond 60 days without congressional authorization or a formal declaration of war. A 30-day withdrawal period follows thereafter under the statute. It also requires that the President inform Congress within 48 hours of use of military force. Obviously, President Trump did that. Obviously, in the modern era with the 24-hour news cycle and social media, nothing goes by unnoticed. This might have made some sense in 1973, but I'm not even sure it was constitutional, and I'll tell you about that as well. Many respected constitutional experts argue that the War Powers Act is itself unconstitutional. I'm persuaded by that argument. They think it's a violation of the Article 2 powers of the Commander-in-Chief. I think that's right. If you look back at the Founders' intent, you read the Federalist Papers, you read the records of the Constitutional Convention, I think that is right. And many more scholars believe the President is correct to use this executive authority in exactly the manner that he did over the weekend. I am a jealous guardian of Congress's Article 1 authority. We are the defenders of it here, and we take it seriously, and I always will be. But exercising the authority to declare war isn't something we've done since World War II. And everybody in this room knows, since then we've had more than 125 military operations. From Korea and Vietnam to Iraq and Afghanistan, they have occurred without a declaration of war by Congress. Presidents of both parties have exercised that authority frequently. A few recent examples. President Biden ordered strikes on Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. President Obama launched an 8-month-long bombing campaign in Libya to oust Gaddafi. President Clinton initiated air patrols and air strikes in Bosnia and a bombing campaign in Yugoslavia. Every one of those actions were taken unilaterally and without prior authorization from Congress. The bottom line is the Commander-in-Chief is the President. The military reports to the President, and the person empowered to act on the nation's behalf is the President. The last few days have unfolded exactly as the law outlines and as history has demonstrated and as the framers of the Constitution intended. I'm convinced of that. Let me change subjects and we'll zoom in back to domestic affairs and the one big beautiful bill. I will say it's very relevant to the discussion about global affairs because one of the things, as you all know, that the big beautiful bill will accomplish is it will support our military funding. While congressional Democrats feign concern about the safety and well-being of U.S. service members, House Republicans are working to deliver legislation that actually accomplishes that and supports them. I think it's really important that amid this global threat landscape that we point out there's never been a better time for a piece of legislation, a generational, once-in-a-generation opportunity legislation like the One Big Beautiful Bill. This bill funds President Trump's Golden Dome to bolster long-range missile defense capabilities. How many of you know that's kind of important right now? It accelerates the modernization of our nuclear deterrent. Couldn't have a better time for that. And it revitalizes our defense industrial base. Here's a few specifics. $34 billion to expand the size and capabilities of our naval fleet. To $25 billion for the Golden Dome. $21 billion to restock America's arsenal of munitions and ramp up domestic production of rare earth and critical minerals. $13 billion for nuclear deterrence. $12 billion to enhance military readiness, among many other great provisions that I won't bore you with listing. It's exciting stuff. And the One Big Beautiful Bill is a generational investment in American military might. And we need to get it to President Trump's desk as soon as possible. I think we will. With that, I'll take a few questions. Chad.
Considering how much this bill has changed in the Senate, how are you going to be able to pivot and sell your members on a vastly different product so quickly? But before characterize what that's going to be like, the President says you need to be here this weekend. Are you going to keep members here without anything to vote on, with no clarity on when the Senate's going to send that across?
Yeah, first thing first, I don't think we can say it's a vastly different product. Don't prejudge it yet. We're still awaiting the final details. We've given space for the Senate to work. They're a separate chamber, of course. I've been emphasizing from the very beginning, this is a one-team approach. The House and Senate Republicans working together in tandem with the White House. There's no daylight between any of us on the ultimate goal and objective. When we set what you all thought were audacious deadlines in the early part of the year, and I said we would do our bill by Memorial Day, many of you smirked. I saw your faces. You laughed at me when I said that. But we beat it by 4 days, okay? When we said we would get the whole thing to the President's desk by July 4th, and that was our objective, many of you also rolled your eyes, but we are on target right now to do that very thing. So if the Senate acts accordingly, and they act according to what we expect right now, we work out the final details, they would get that passed maybe by Friday, Saturday. And I've told our members, we just had the big House Republican Conference meeting, the weekly meeting, and I said, keep your schedules flexible. July 4th is always a district work period, as is tradition, so everybody can go home and celebrate the 4th of July with their constituents and their families. But there's nothing more important that we should be involved in and can be involved in than getting the One Big Beautiful Bill to the President's desk. So if the Senate does its work on the timeline that we expect, we will do our work as well. And I think everybody's ready for that. Yes, sir. Yeah, why do you think I look so tired? Yeah, I've been talking to individual senators ad nauseum and sharing with them the conversations and the deliberations and the negotiations and the conclusions that we reached together here in the House. Remembering that we worked on it for over a year on this side, and they've had to have a truncated work period of just a few weeks on this in reality. So they're going through the 5 stages of grief on their individual preferences, as we did over here, but again, we had longer time to process it. I remain, as I stand here at this podium, I remain very optimistic that there is not going to be a wide chasm between the two products, what the Senate produces and what we produce. We all know what the touch points are, and the areas of the greatest concern. We've got to get the SALT negotiation number right. We've got to make sure the IRA subsidies are handled in an appropriate manner. You've got a number of provisions. We want to make sure that we hold by our commitment that we are not cutting Medicaid. The President has said that, and I've said that. We've all said that. We are strengthening the program for the people who are the most vulnerable populations who really rely upon that. You're talking about the disabled, the elderly, young pregnant women, for example. Those resources won't be available for those people who desperately need it and deserve it if young able-bodied men, for example, are on the program and not working. So we introduced a work requirement on the House side. It's wildly popular with the people because it follows common sense. If you're going to be on the public wagon and you're able, you should try to help pull it. And all we did was put in there, as you all know, a 20-hour work requirement per week, 20 hours. You guys work 80 hours, I'm sure, right? Give me a break. And they're complaining about that. You either have to be working, you have to be looking for a job in a job training program, or volunteering in your community. For heaven's sakes, do something constructive. That is something that everybody nods their head in agreement at a town hall and says, yes, do that. Why didn't we do it already, right? So what we've done is strengthen the program. I hope and believe, I pray, that the Senate will follow that same theme and not do anything that we couldn't pass on the other side over here.
Last question.
Second. There's a lot there. Look, the reason the ceasefire is fragile is because you have Iran as one of the parties, and they have demonstrated for us over the decades that they are not to be trusted. Ronald Reagan said, "Trust but verify." We're now in a posture where we verify and then trust. Okay, and that's where we are. They have not been truthful over the years. They have not been reliable for their word, and they have in so many ways they've been a very irrational actor on the world stage. So it's fragile just because of the parties involved. But what I would say about our role here in the Congress is that there were a couple of resolutions floated. One of our Republican colleagues, Thomas Massey, has got over 50 Democrats who had signed on to his War Powers Act resolution he wanted to bring to the floor. They were filing those resolutions as privilege resolutions, which means they must be heard within a certain number of days. It's 15 days of legislative business. And I don't have the power to stop a privilege resolution. But I did talk to Thomas, who is a colleague and a friend. I talked to him on the floor. We never agree these days. I'm not sure where his philosophy is coming from. But anyway, I talked to him on the floor last night, and I said, listen, in light of the ceasefire, if the ceasefire holds, obviously you would agree that your War Powers Act resolution is now a moot point. And he said, yeah, it probably is. So we may not have to act upon that. I hope we don't, because I think it would be a terrible look, and it will not pass the House. Because it's inappropriate and it's not a proper use of the law anyway. The President has clearly fulfilled his responsibility under the War Powers Act, assuming that act was even constitutional. So, yeah. One last one. Last row.
On the subject of Thomas Massey, if he does face the primary challenger, as Trump is threatening to find, will you defend him in that?
That's the hardest question I have this morning. I'll be totally honest with you. Okay. Look, the Speaker's job, my role with my party cap on, is I'm the leader of my party here, and the Speaker leads the Incumbent Protection Program, right? That's what we call it. I got to make sure everybody gets reelected. I travel the country nonstop, relentlessly raising money to ensure that happens. But I certainly understand the President's frustration about the colleague you named, and he and I talk about that quite a bit. Can't quite understand what the rationale is, but if you're here and you're wearing one team's jersey, and every single time you vote with the other team, people begin to question what your motive is and what your philosophy is, and why you're so consistently opposed to the platform and the agenda of your party. So I'll leave it at that. I talked to Thomas about this very frankly, because I said he's a friend. I want him to come to his senses and work with the team, and I try to work with him every day to do that, as I do everybody here. So that's my answer this morning, okay? Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. You're awesome. They told me she was coming next. So. I saw her written down.
All right, so it's the top of the hour, 11:02 a.m. Eastern Time. The GOP press conference just wrapping up. We also are going to go to a video in just a minute. It's actually an audio only from Air Force One with President Trump speaking to reporters. Before we get to that, as he is on the way to the Netherlands, of course, let's go to Colonial Metals Group. You know, all you have to do is go to freegoldguide.com/RSBN to check everything out there and get that free info kit on gold and silver, a tax-sheltered IRA 401k backed by gold or silver. It's 100% tax-free. You have a QR code to check out there. It's the same thing as freegoldguide.com/RSBN. Always a good idea to have the gold and silver as a backup plan to the dollar. So freegoldguide.com/RSBN. Also, let's go now to All Family Pharmacy before we go to Air Force One with that audio from just moments ago with the president and some of the reporters there. Obviously, disasters, they don't wait, and neither should you. Power outages, blocked roads, empty pharmacy shelves. It only takes one emergency to leave you without the medications you need. So whether it's a hurricane or wildfire or new virus threat, All Family Pharmacy is here for you. They make it easy to stock up on ivermectin and antibiotics, daily medications, and more. More than 200 essential medications with a doctor's prescription included, and also a fast delivery to your door. So no insurance, no pharmacy lines, no last minute scrambling. RSBN viewers, guess what? We get 20% off everything through June 30th with that RSBN 20 promo code. So you don't have to wait for a disaster to remind you how important it is, of course, to be prepared. A great company right here, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. All right, before we go, we have a couple of clips to play you here. Something that I haven't heard yet in its entirety is the audio only from the Air Force One with President Trump speaking to reporters. Also, we're going to highlight a Trump Truth Social post before we go. And then there's also an article out there by Dylan Burrows with Right Side Broadcasting Network that we're going to talk about just quickly. And then we'll wrap the broadcast, but there's a lot of news happening still today. Of course, Robert McNeely will be in studio to cover a number of things happening, including at 12:30 Eastern live coverage here at Right Side. So thanks so much for streaming with us as we get ready now to go to Air Force One with the audio of the president speaking with reporters. Take a listen.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Jeff. How are you? How are you? We have breaking news. Everything good. Israel, as you know, turned back. They didn't do that raid this morning, fortunately. That was a big thing. Appreciate it. They had a lot of planes going, and they were going to do something, and they didn't do it. We're happy about that. Very happy about that. So the ceasefire is very much in effect, and I think we're going to keep it there for a long time.
Did you speak to Prime Minister Netanyahu about that?
I did.
What did you tell him?
I said, you got to turn back the planes. They were going to go because, look, they hit him very hard after we made the deal yesterday. They were entitled to, but nobody thought that would have happened. But they hit him very hard, and that shouldn't have happened. And then, as you know, Iran hit them very hard last night because of that. I don't think they would have, except for the first hard hit. And I guess a missile was launched a couple of minutes afterwards, which went nowhere, which hit nothing. And there was going to be a retaliation this morning by Israel. And they said, you got to call back the planes. It's enough. It's enough. And they did, which I respect very greatly. So nobody was killed. That was the sort. But they had a lot of planes going in the wrong direction. You know that, right?
Do you want any consequences for Israel or Iran for breaking?
They didn't do anything. No, they didn't do anything. They would have if I put out a statement on truth, and they didn't do anything.
Sir, how are you confident that this might not happen again? Say in a couple weeks that...
Tired of it. I think they don't want it to happen again. And Iran's not going to have a nuclear weapon, by the way. I think it's the last thing on their mind right now.
Mr. President, did Iran make any commitments yesterday about uranium enrichment?
About what?
About uranium enrichment.
They're not going to have enrichment, and they're not going to have a nuclear weapon, and they know that. They're going to get on to being a great trading nation. You know, they're very good traders. And they're going to be a great trading nation, and they have a lot of oil. They're going to do well. They're not going to have a nuclear weapon.
So did they
the
promise?
last thing on Iran's mind right now is nuclear weapons.
Can you clarify what you meant when you mentioned regime change in your Truth Social post the other night?
Which?
Regime change. Do you want to see regime change in Iran?
No. If there was, there was. But no, I don't want it. I'd like to see everything calm down as quickly as possible. Regime change takes chaos. And ideally, we don't want to see so much chaos. So we'll see how it does. You know, the Iranians are very good traders, very good business people, and they got a lot of oil. They should be fine. They should be able to rebuild and do a good job. They're never going to have nuclear, but other than that, they should do a great job, which is exactly where I've been saying for years. You cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. But we're going to be with, where's Marco? I think Marco's here someplace. You know, our great Secretary of State. But we cannot let them have a nuclear weapon. They won't have a nuclear weapon. And I will tell you, the last thing on their minds is nuclear weapons. They don't even want to think about nuclear. And our B-2 pilots made this all possible. They had a magnificent hit in the dark of night with no moon, no light, no nothing. They hit the target perfectly, wiped it out. And the press is very disrespectful. I saw CNN fake news going, well, maybe it wasn't a perfect hit, it was perfect. They said maybe it did destroy it. We agree, it did destroy it, but maybe it could have destroyed it more. No, it couldn't have destroyed it more. Everyone hit, and it's very disrespectful to those great geniuses and patriots that flew those planes through tremendous danger. So CNN and MSDNC are a disgrace. And so are the others. I mean, they're pretty much all a disgrace. But it's an amazing period of time. Now we're going to NATO, and we'll get a new set of problems. We'll solve a new set of problems.
Do you think you'll meet with Zelensky when you're there?
Yeah, probably. I'll see him. Yeah.
What would you say to him?
Say, how you doing? They're tough. He's in a tough situation. Should have never been there.
Sir, you said a couple days ago that you didn't think the U.S. should have to agree to the 5% increase in GDP on defense.
No. I was the one that said that's what they should be paying, as you know. No, I should do something. And they're having a problem with Spain. There's always a problem with Spain. Spain's not agreeing, which is very unfair to the rest of them, frankly.
So the U.S. won't be increasing our GDP to 5%.
We should pay what everyone else. You know, they're in Europe. We're not. You know, a lot of that money goes to rebuilding their bridges, their roads, so it can take heavy equipment. And, you know, we don't have any roads in Europe. We don't have any bridges in Europe. So, no, it wouldn't be quite the same thing for us. But we're with them.
Are you still committed to Article 5 of NATO?
It depends on your definition. There's numerous definitions of Article 5. You know that, right? But I'm committed to being their friends. You know, I've become friends with many of those leaders, and I'm committed to helping them.
What do you want the role of NATO to be going forward once these other countries are spending more?
By having a unified system, I think we're going to have stronger peace, better peace. And I think we have that. You know, when I went to NATO, they were broke. When I first started this whole thing, it seems like a long time ago, 9 years, right? But they were broke. I knew it immediately. I said, you guys are broke. They weren't paying their dues. 7 of the 28 countries, at the time it was 28, were paying their dues, but they weren't paying very much. NATO was broke. Then I said, you're going to have to pay. And we did a whole thing, and now they're paying a lot. Then I said, you're going to have to lift it to 4% or 5%, and 5% is better. And they just, I guess they're voting on that today, but they're going to be lifting it to 5%. That's good. It gives them much more power.
Mr. President, if there's language in the final summit declaration about aggression by Russia, would you be okay with that kind of language?
Well, I'll have to take a look at it, but, you know, I'd like to see a deal with Russia. As you know, Vladimir called me up. He said, can I help you with Iran? I said, no, I don't need help with Iran. I need help with you. And I hope we're going to be getting a deal done with Russia. It's a shame. 6,000 soldiers died last week. More, 6,500 soldiers died last week. Russia, Ukraine, a war that never would have happened if I was president. So enjoy your flight.
Let me ask you one more follow-up. In your comments just now about Article 5, that will probably make some people in Europe concerned. Can you clarify what you mean? Are you still committed to mutual defense?
I'm committed to saving lives. I'm committed to life and safety. And I'm going to give you an exact definition when I get there. I just don't want to do it on the back of an airplane. Okay?
And one other question on energy. What's your take on the oil price situation right now, and are you concerned?
I love it. It dropped almost $10 yesterday. I put out a statement, get it down, because a lot of people aren't able to do things when the energy goes down. We're going to have a lot less conflict. So it came down, and our energy department's doing a great job. We're drilling like we've never drilled before. We're keeping it down. We're going to keep it down until all these wars are settled. Thank you very much, everybody. I'll see you.
Iranian sleeper cells in the United States.
Biden led a lot of supercells, and Biden was an incompetent president and had no idea what he was doing. He hardly ever signed a document. Other people signed documents for him with the auto pen. It was gross incompetence. And among everything else, he let a lot of supercells in, many from Iran. But hopefully we'll take care of them. What Biden did to this country should never be forgotten.
Sir, do you think you'll get the Nobel Peace Prize now, sir?
Very powerful words by the president, especially at the end there, talking about AutoPen, as Robert McNeely pretty much first called Joe Biden that in an interview with President Trump on Air Force One. Before we get into one more post from President Trump's Truth Social account and an article right here on RSBN that we could talk about specifically to President Trump's point about illegal aliens, including Iranians that under Joe Biden came into our country. We'll get to those specifics in a second. Let's talk about the Trump Force One airplane. Since he's on Air Force One, PatriotAddictDeals.com right there. Trump Force One airplane. You can get that right there by just going to PatriotAddictDeals.com. Use that RSBN 20 promo code. You get 20% off. Quite awesome to see something that is just historic, right? Even in 28 and 29, and we go into 2030 and beyond, having something like that just to look at and remember those rally days and the times that he would fly over Trump Force One. You can have that memorabilia. That's why it's called memorabilia, right? So PatriotAddictDeals.com. Also MyPillow.com/RSBN. With God, all things are possible. We know this to be true. You see that great pillow there? You get it for free. All you have to do is purchase one thing on MyPillow.com, and you'll get that exclusive special, a free value there of $39.98, a free pillow. With God, all things are possible. MyPillow.com/RSBN, more than 2,000 products available to you right there with that great website. Also, let's go to President Trump's Truth Social post from, I think it was around 10:07 Eastern time, so about an hour or so ago. Now that we have made peace abroad, we must finish the job here at home by passing the great, big, beautiful bill and getting the bill to my desk ASAP. It will be a historic present for the great people of the United States of America as we begin the celebration of our country's 250th birthday. We are finally entering our golden age, which will bring unprecedented safety, security, and prosperity for all of our citizens. To my friends in the Senate, lock yourself in a room if you must. Don't go home and get the deal done this week. Work with the House so they can pick it up and pass it immediately. No one goes on vacation until it's done, in all caps, the president says. Everyone, most importantly, the American people, will be much better off thanks to our work together. Make America great again. The post from President Trump at 10:07 Eastern time, as he is on Air Force One right now, heading to the Netherlands at about 12:30 Eastern time. We'll have some more live coverage. Robert McNeely in studio as we continue our coverage of the president and also the NATO summit trip, which is today and tomorrow. We'll have that here for you. Let's also go to one more article before we close out this broadcast. You see our article right there, written by Dylan Burrows. Attorney General Pam Bondi warns over 1,000 Iranians illegally entered the United States under Joe Biden. So that is something that President Trump was just talking about on Air Force One. So if you'd like to check out that article, you can do so on our website, on our app, on Truth Social, on X, anywhere that RSBN is. Thanks so much for clicking on the articles, watching our live channel here on the network, and also watching all of the replays of different things maybe that you missed from over the weekend, or maybe you missed a lot of this broadcast. All you have to do is scrub back on it, just kind of rewind, or just replay it whenever you can when you get an opportunity. as it's now 11:17 this morning. Grace Aldana, our president and COO, actually referred to that article on her Truth Social account and got a retruth from Devin Nunes, of course, of Truth Social. So a very important article, but also important words by the AG Pam Bondi, speaking about more than 1,000 Iranians illegally entered the U.S. under Joe Biden. So we know that we still have the mass deportations that are happening with ICE agents that are out there. I know there's a lot going on, but that's why it's called an anchor, right? We're going to anchor in this news, and we're going to talk about what's happening out there. And it's great to be able to have all of the different X posts, Truth Social posts, video feed from the Air Force One plane on the way to the Netherlands, video feeds from The Hague in the Netherlands for the NATO summit, and over the weekend, all of that coverage. And all of it brought to you by some great people that work here at this network, behind the scenes, the names that you don't know about, because it takes all of us to do this together. So shout out to the crew here at Right Side, and a shout out to all of you viewers and everybody that watches here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. All right, so it's 11:18, Tuesday, June 24th. I'm Matthew Alvarez. We'll see you a bit later today. Robert McNeely will be here in studio, continuing our coverage from the NATO summit. We'll see you then.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
To celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7, I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free. Or check out our Percale bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.